Adi Lila chapter 6.
Welcher Vers?
Es ist schon
Genau, also vertreten, ja. Oder sagt 2 Verse hier.
Das Gott findet zu.
Ah ja. Genau. Ja, das machen wir gut. Ja, das musst du vorher lesen lassen. Arabisch oder keine Leute. Arabisch nur.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivardhari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatira Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Yashodanandana Vraja Janaranjana Yamunatiravanachari Yamunatiravanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Radha Madhava Ki So Hare Krishna and welcome to this morning's class on we will read from the Chaitanya Charitamrita to glorify Sri Advaita Acharya, whose appearance day we observe today. Was war das Kapitel? 6. Right. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda.
So we're going to read from the 6th chapter of the Adi Lila. It's text number 7, right? On the 4? Number 4. I'm sorry. Ah, yeah. Yes. Mahavishnur Jagatkarta Mayaya Yaha Srijati Adaha Tasyavatara Evayam Advaitacharya Ishvaraha Mahavishnur Jagatkarta Mayaya Yashrijatyada Tasyavadhara Evayam Advaitacharya Ishvaraha Mahavishnur Jagatkarta Mayaya Yashrijatyada Tasyavadhara Evayam Advaitacharya Ishvaraha Mahavishnur Jagatkarta Mayaya Yashrijatyada Tasyavadhara Evayam Advaitacharya Ishvaraha Mahavishnur Jagatkarta Mayaya Yashrijatyada Tasyavatara Evayam Advaitacharya Ishvaraha Mahavishnur Jagatkarta Mayaya Yashrijatyada Tasyavatara Evayam Advaitacharya Ishvaraha Mahavishnur Jagatkarta Mayaya Yashrijatyada Tasyavatara Evayam Advaitacharya Ishvaraha. Vaishnavis. Mahavishnur Jagatkarta Mayaya Yashrijatyada Tasyavatara Evayam Advaitacharya Ishvaraha. Mahavishnu, the resting place of the efficient cause. Jagatkarta, the creator of the cosmic world. Mayaya, by the illusory energy. Yaha, who. Sarijati, creates. Adaha, that universe. Tasya, his. Avatara, incarnation. Eva, certainly. Ayam, this. Advaitacharya, Advaitacharya. Ishvaraha, the Supreme Lord. The resting place of the material cause. Translation. Lord Advaitacharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. Perhaps the verse before stating, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami writes, in 5 verses I have described the principle of Lord Nityananda, then in the following 2 verses I describe the glories of Sri Advaita Acharya. So this was the first of the 2. I will read the second. Advaitam harinadvaitat acharyam bhakti samsanat bhaktavadharam isham tam advaitacharyam ashraye. Because he is none different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita. And because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore I take shelter of him. So there are quite a few verses without purports. So we go with that. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Granjana Shalakaya Chakshuram Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Karamayam Darati Svabharantikam Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktarinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vagisha yasya vadhane, Lakshmir yasya chavakshasi, yasya ste riraye samvit, tam narasimham maham bhaje, pralada ridayaladam, bhaktavitya vidaram, sharatinduruchim vande parindra vandanam harim. Shloka again. Lord Advaita Acharya is the incarnation of Mahavishnu, whose main function is to create the cosmic world through the actions of Maya. Because he is not different from Hari, the Supreme Lord, he is called Advaita. And because he propagates the cult of devotion, he is called Acharya. He is the Lord and the incarnation of the Lord's devotee. Therefore I take shelter of him. So the whole Pancha Tattva is understood as representing all the different energies of the Lord that always accompany him in his pastimes, and they always aim to serve the Lord in various capacities, and also Advaita Acharya has immense capacities to render service to the Lord. Like in these 2 verses he's highlighted as Mahavishnu, who actually does the service of creating, maintaining and destroying the whole cosmic world. And at the same time, he also is a personal associate, the devotee of the Lord in, for example, the Gaura Leela. And in the Pancha Tattva, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, of course, is the Krishna Tattva, Advaita Acharya represents the Vishnu Tattva, Shiva Tattva, and then it's Nityananda who actually is doing the Vishnu Tattva representation, right? And then there's Gadardha Pandit, who is the Jiva Tattva, and I'm a bit confused this morning. Gadardha is the Shakti Tattva because it's Srimati Radharani, and Srivas Thakur here represents the Jiva Tattva. So all these Tattvas serve the Lord in his appearance, in the performance of his pastimes. So that's always the natural position. And also Advaita Acharya facilitates a lot of pastimes simply by, first of all, creating the material world in which so many pastimes of the Lord in his Vishnu forms are happening. And also he's a very crucial part in calling Chaitanya Mahaprabhu into this world. We have this picture this morning on the altar where we see Sri Advaita Acharya worshipping his Shalagram Shila, and while doing that, or like besides doing that, he's intensely crying for the Lord. And I would like to read a few lines from a lecture actually Gaur Govinda Maharaj was speaking about the glories. There's even a whole little booklet about the roaring of Advaita Acharya from Gaur Govinda Swami, because he's not just chanting, he roared. Like, just give me a second. Yes, and here he describes Advaitacharya saying he made a wonderful promise. Mahavishnu Avatara, he is an incarnation of Mahavishnu, and therefore he could feel the pains of the jivas here because all jivas come from Mahavishnu. He was a Mahavishnu avatar and he could feel the suffering and pain of the Kali Hatha jiva. He observed that there was no bhakti in Kali Yuga, and therefore he promised, I must make Krishna appear to propagate bhakti. So that was his heart's desire, or what moved him. So in his pastime of serving the Lord, he also, of course, is the biggest, or like a very big caretaker of all the jiva souls. We understand that he is also said all the jivas come from Mahavishnu, and different sources, also the Brahma Samhita points it out, that actually the jivas can originate from different parts of Krishna's Shaktis. And Mahavishnu maintains them also within himself, particularly when he's inhaling or while he's asleep. So all the jivas rest within Mahavishnu, and there they have no consciousness. It's that there the consciousness is practically put to sleep, as Mahavishnu also shows or like demonstrates an attitude of sleeping, kind of relating to the jivas in their material state of existence. And simply while breathing, manifesting universes in which he then transfers also the jivas again and takes another form, Garbhodakasha Vishnu, that lays on the ocean within the universes. And there also, we as jivas, we reside within his belly. It's said during the time of Brahma's night. But there we have a subtle body. We keep our subtle body while we are in that state. And therefore also we can keep certain material inclinations, and when again there's time to wake up, when Brahma's day approaches, then the jivas are being again brought out of Garbhodakasha Vishnu's belly, brought into the lotus stem, and then like being distributed to all the planetary systems to engage in their activities. And at the same time, Vishnu, we know, accompanies each soul individually as Kshirodakasha Vishnu, or the Paramatma, within the heart, facilitating knowledge, remembrance, forgetfulness, being the overseer and permitter. So that's all Advaitacharya in different features. That's the Vishnu Tattva is also sometimes said to be a combined form of Vishnu and Shiva, or like the Shambhu. And we know from the Brahma Samhita that actually Shambhu or Shiva is manifested from Vishnu. So it's its own category, but at the same time it originates from Mahavishnu. So they are linked intrinsically. We understand from the glance of Mahavishnu, Shambhu is created. So and they take care of this material universe, and sometimes like now with the Gauranga Lila, Advaitacharya calls for Krishna to enter the material world. And it said his, let me just read a second. Yeah, his motivation is he feels a painful absence of bhakti in Kali Yuga, and therefore the jivas suffer miserably. And he wants Krishna to appear to propagate the cult of bhakti. And here he says further in the lecture, Advaitacharya promised, I must make Krishna appear here and show Krishna to everyone. If I do not, then I will not be known by the name Advaitacharya. Krishnaya Kinkara, the servant of Krishna. He made this promise. It is a wonderful promise. Who can make such a promise? Only because he is such a dear devotee, he can make Krishna appear. Otherwise, no one can make Krishna appear. So by the plea of the pure devotee, Krishna shall appear, and it highlights again the dependence the jivas have, or the souls, on the pure devotee who showers his mercy by, for example, making this plea to Krishna that he may appear and deliver the fallen souls. And then he sat down, he worshipped Shalakamshila with the Tulasi on the Ganges, and he was chanting, this is described here. So he was offering worship to Shalakramshila with Tulasi leaf and Ganga Jala, and uttering the name of Krishna, crying, crying, and crying. Yeah, so the lecture, I will not read the whole lecture then. But the thing is, his crying was so intense, and also later the term roaring is used because he got really into ecstasy also by calling out the names of the Lord. And it's, if you speak of the universes that are created by the very form of Advaitacharya Mahavishnu, we understand it's immensely thick. Or in terms of measurements, we understand from the Vedic description it's 4 billion miles in diameter, which is in kilometers like approximately 6.5 billion. So and this is just like the diameter of the universe, and also it is described how the universe is covered by the very elements it consists of. First comes the earthen layer, which is 10 times as thick. So it means 40 billion miles thick. And then comes another layer with water, again 10 times bigger than the earthen shell. So 400 million miles additionally. And then comes fire with another 10 times bigger. And then comes air, another times bigger. And then is ether. Sometimes it's said false ego might be the last covering. So that's one situation of a universe, of the smallest ones. It said we are in the smallest ones, which has 4 billion kilometers diameter, where Brahma has 4 heads. But then we know from this one pastime where Brahma witnesses that there are many universes way bigger than his, where the Brahmas have up to millions of heads, which must also be an interesting state of existence, that you have not just 4 heads. Is even already strange to imagine, but to speak of you have so many heads. So and then the layers are even thicker. They also sometimes described like with a grape, grapes that are like plugged together. So like hardly sometimes, even if you amplify our sound, it can penetrate to maybe a wall or a window, and you can hear it a bit far, like some meters or perhaps even kilometers around. But what to speak of penetrating thick layers of, let's say, you could imagine you sit in a mountain, and you make sounds and you expect maybe outside the world will hear what I say. It's not possible. So that Advaitacharya's crying was so intense, so powerful, his roaring, it penetrated all the layers of the universe and entered straight to Vaikuntha, like and Krishna could hear. I mean, of course he could hear in the heart, but then, the thing is the intensity of Advaitacharya's crying should be glorified here. So this made Krishna ultimately appear. Of course there are several reasons why Krishna appears, and all the reasons play together, But one thing is that Advaitacharya's calling brought the Lord to this world. And so therefore it's appropriate for the jiva to always be in an attitude of gratitude toward the true sadhus. We must say the true sadhus. Many people in Kali Yuga, it's like they want to pass as sadhu, but are not. Those who truly have heartfelt jiva doya, the compassion for the living entities, they are glorious, who want to reconnect the soul truly with Krishna, and that's their aim, and there they see, there I want to be a tool, that's my service for the Lord, and they prepare for that. Srila Prabhupada also, there's even one book they call it like a lifetime of preparation, where it's described to all of Srila Prabhupada's arrangements, like after he received the instruction of Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur, where his way of also preparing for that service and equipping himself, may it be simply to, you increase your English if you want to go to or you improve your English when you want to go to a country where you want to preach like this. It's at the same as if you would want to go to India, depending which part, and then learn either Hindi, Bengali or whatever in order to effectively preach, study, you maintain the knowledge, you be an example yourself, so to be fit to be a tool. So that's something what servant also means, that you're always concerned, am I in shape to be of service in whatever capacity that might be. Teaching is one thing, but there's so many ways of service. So where you might look at like, okay, how am I equipped and how am I fit? Because for anything you got to train, for example, to keep your body fit, to be functional and so on. So being a servant means not just to give service to others, but to always arrange oneself that my body and mind and is fit to give the service I want to render. So therefore self-neglect is not advised. Right? So if you're yourself sickly and not healthy and whatever, how you want to properly serve. Right? This one can do if one has transcended the physical and mental demands, or like one is not affected too much by that. Some of the people, or like some doctors, I guess, whatever they are by profession, when they examined Srila Prabhupada's body after death, or when he left the body, they were amazed to see that actually the strings, the muscle strings, I don't know how to call them in English, or like they were laying kind of open, or at least they concluded from the state this muscle was in, he must have had actually intense pain all the time, because they were just already. But Srila Prabhupada was sometimes seen, he kind of almost floating in the air even, and being very blissful, not being affected by that. So if you're on that level, that physical illness or whatever doesn't affect you too much, then it's another story. But on the way there, it's advised to be fit, to be a tool for the service of the Lord. So, and Advaitacharya resides as Vishnu within the universe, but also, of course, without. And he has always a desire, of course, to associate with the Lord. And he makes clear by his attitude, actually, he could deliver the whole world himself. You know, he's powerful enough, he's Vishnu. But he makes clear, no, but Krishna is a supreme Lord, and he wants him to perform this activity. And he resides on what is called Viraj, which is a kind of a borderline between the material sphere and the spiritual spheres. There's some transition period, so to speak. There's also some kind of Tatashta region, it's called, as we have within ocean, and there's the beach, and there's some little thing in between. It cannot be marked so exactly, but there's something in between, which is neither really only beach, nor is it like already ocean. It's something between, like the Tatashta region. And it said also Tatashta Jivas, we also, that there's the home, or like one of the places where the jivas manifest from, and he's residing there. And what is also interesting, that although he handles the whole material energy, what is always highlighted is he has no contact with her directly. It is always emphasized clearly, Krishna has never, known as Vishnu form, contact directly with the material energy. It said also in the Karana ocean, that therefore Karana Dakashya Vishnu, the ocean, the causal ocean, which is also manifested from his own body. You know, his transcendental perspiration is also within the universes, when he perspires, when he sweats, so to say, that fills the universe with transcendental water. And at the same time, although he's laying on it, of course, then there's Sheshanaga in between. You know, he doesn't touch anything there. Like, and also when he deals with the material energy, it said his glance takes over the function of arranging material nature, so that he is not directly involved. So the glance has kind of its autonomous function, and so in this way, the Lord controls the material energy without having to be directly in touch with her, although it appears so. Which is a very mysterious phenomena. How can this be the energy of the Lord and not be in touch with the Lord? It's an interesting subject matter. So, and once also he had a desire to see the Lord, but he didn't enter a universe for that reason, but he devised a plan to make Krishna visit him. That's also an interesting pastime. And for that he created a very unpleasant situation for King Ugrasena. Because there was a brahmana it was at the end of Dwapara Yuga, and there still the king was held in a very high regard in regards to also what he is responsible for, what the effect of a pious or impious king is. When you hear that, you probably will naturally lose all desire to be some king or president. Because there was this one Brahmin, and he said he lost his child right after birth, actually, pretty much. And he was very disturbed by that. And he figured, this is because the king is impious. That was the natural conclusion, because otherwise this wouldn't happen. Right? And then he accused King Ugrasena of being actually an envious king. And you know, it was like quite some conversation going on. I just really summarize it. And he went in front of the king. Was another story, you know. Prabhupada at different points. He points that out, that the king was approachable by the public. You could go there and put your complaint in front of him. Just imagine if people would want to complain to Bundesrat, Bundeskanzler. They would stand in line the whole day, you know, for so many people would want to complain. So their job would be only receiving complaints, I guess. So it was also not such a common thing that people would complain. Once maybe in a while, because with the king would be very pious, things would go well. So even no death of children in this regard. So, but then it happened even repeatedly, up to 9 times. 9 times he lost a child. And the king already, just imagine, the first time is already intense if the Brahmin comes and accuses the king of that. And then also Arjuna, of course, was concerned to, protect the good name of King Ugrasena. And he promised to bring the sons back. And then how was this to be arranged? At the end, Krishna and Arjuna traveled. They traveled through all the layers of the universe also, and Krishna made space with the Sudarshan chakra. Sudarshan means also, Su means beautiful, and Darshan means sight. So the Sudarshan chakra provides vision also, you know, like it cuts through all the layers, and they just entered, like they left the universe and came to the abode of Mahavishnu. And in the Krishna book there's also beautiful descriptions how they saw the Karana ocean. And I said in that moment it was very agitated, it was intense, but it was a transcendental atmosphere to it. And they saw in a distance, of course it was a huge palatial residence of Mahavishnu, where he was also residing on Anantashesh. And he had 8 arms, also more than 4. So he can manifest a variety of arms, blissfully laying there in his yoga nidra state, transcendental slumber. And they approached him, and at the end, I make it very short, just I didn't get all the details. I must admit I didn't have too much time to prepare myself. And then Mahavishnu revealed to them, yeah, actually I did it. You know, I arranged that all these, the children of the Brahmanas, they died so that at the end you come to see me. I wanted to have a darshan. So that's how the devotee of the Lord, like Advaitacharya, they can control the Lord also. You know, like Krishna came, like we see that, like also in the Bhagavad Gita, when we speak of Arjuna, how he travels with the Lord, also there Krishna is willing to become the servant of his own devotee, even to such an extent that he takes the role of a sutta. The chariot drivers, they're considered in a Shudra class, being in a Shudra class, because the service it's very menial, actually, although it's not a regular Shudra job like others, like to control a chariot. And it's being guided by the chariot driver kicking the shoulders of the driver to give directions. So Krishna was being transcendentally kicked by Arjuna and on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, and maneuvering him through the battle. So it's beautiful to observe these exchanges, but the essential thing is that we can always see what makes these relationships so sweet is that even both sides always have the intention to please the other through service. Jagannath Baladev Subhacha Devi ki jai, Shri Shri Gauranitai ki jai. One level of spiritual connection with the Lord is the admiration, awe and reverence, to be amazed by the Lord of our prayers. And another level is like to give yourself to Krishna by whatever you are being gifted with, you gift back, so to speak. You know, whatever capacities your body and mind has, that you use that in the service of the Lord with the intention to please. As it is highlighted by Rupa Goswami, also in the Nectar of Devotion, Anyabhilashita shunyam jnana karma yanavartam anukul yena krishnanu shilanam bhakti ruttama. That the intention to please is the essential item in the service. Unmotivated meaning my only aim is like Krishna, by what I do, I hope you will be pleased with that. That's my pleasure. So in this way, also Advaitacharya is performing so many services, and he's empowered with all the creative energy. Like he creates not just the material worlds. Actually, since Balaram is the origin, okay, Balaram is invested with all the creative forces. He creates the spiritual sphere, but then through Vishnu or Advaitacharya, he manifests the material world and maintains it. And within the material world itself is a topic that can cover months and months of discussion, because the scriptures give so many details what the creation is and what happens in there, and that's just one insignificant part of the creation, it's said, of the overall spiritual creation. This is the creation we can grasp, kind of, because the spiritual manifestation is beyond the understanding of mind and intelligence. So it's full of apparent contradictions, since our mind is conditioned to think in terms of duality and time, which do not exist in the spiritual world. Yes, Hare Krishna. I'm afraid that it's for today from my side. If you have maybe additional comments, perhaps a question, I might be able to answer.
Thank you, Keshava Madhava. I was listening to a lecture of His Holiness Swami Bhagavan Keshava Maharaj, and he was speaking in relation to the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So I thought I might consider raising this question now, because it just got me thinking, because he mentioned in the lecture how particularly Lord Chaitanya's pastimes are still going on. They are eternal. They are going on even now. And he quoted this text, Kono kono bhagyavan jeev dekhi pai, only the fortunate can see it. And then I was thinking that our scriptures entail these details of how Lord Chaitanya took birth, and after 48th year So how do we understand this concept of that the pastimes are still going on, and despite that the Lord does take birth again and again? Thank you.
Yeah, the problem is we cannot understand it. Because it's again a concept of time. Understanding might mean we can look at it as, it's said in the spiritual world, activities do not have a beginning and not have an end, so they're not time bound. And this is something rather abstract, because in the material world everything has beginning within time and ends within time, so time is governing it by movements of atoms and so on. There's a certain state of existence that constantly changes till it's over, so therefore it has no existence. And as said, Srila Prabhupada in the teachings of Queen Kunti, in one text he also speaks about how time affects only those who don't have a transcendental consciousness, who are not situated in transcendence, because for them, those in transcendence, there is no past, present, future. This is a state of mind that is imposed on the soul based on the subtle body and so on. Like the soul experiences such a kind of state which actually does not fit her true existence, but by the power of the illusory energy, we have this kind of states of past, present, future, although we are timeless. And also the term anadi is very significant, eternally without having a beginning in time. So the activities, therefore, of the spiritual world cannot be grasped by the mind who is forced to think in terms of time. So these activities, since they are real, that would be the sat, whereas sat means permanent, existing, continuously, eternally, in contrast to material activities which only actually appear to exist, we must say, because material nature is said to be fleeting and manifests a certain state, but because it is fleeting and constantly changes, like any activity, it is said is actually illusion. Although for the moment we experience something like an activity, but it's gone immediately. It's not. We cannot pick up on it again or take it. Once it's done. It's over. It's not. But so therefore, it's called illusion. It doesn't have a permanent existence, but the Lord's pastimes have. And since the Jiva soul, as my understanding, is covered by still the material layers of subtle and gross body, we don't have a perception of these activities, or to speak of perceiving them in their true nature. Bhaktivinoda Saraswati Thakur, in his purports to the first few also Brahma Samhita shlokas, he speaks about that, also how Krishna Lila is being perceived accordingly to the qualification of the sadhaka. Those people who are around when Krishna is there, depending on what level they are, they see with maybe a bit of a conditioned vision, depending how pure they are. The pastime appears to have certain defects or things that actually don't even exist in the spiritual world. So they see, he points, for example, out even the so-called illicit relationships, Krishna and the gopis, and how this is perceived. There's no fault in it, or the nature of this relationship is not perceivable in the material world, but in the spiritual platform it is, because there you see the true nature of things. I would have to read up it again to get the detail. But yeah, I hope this was somehow or other answering your question.
Thank you, Prabhu. I had a question concerning the Jiva. You were saying how Brahma's night and the Jivas, they enter into Mahavishnu. Now, before that, like it said, Jiva is eternal, so then we're eternally one and different with Krishna, so we're eternally individually there. So can you is there some explanation how this works? How is it that, are we like a potential that then is manifested, or is there some descriptions of how do we come into existence in that sense?
Yeah, that's another big issue, philosophical issue. I mean, philosophically, not so much, more like in terms of perception, understanding. Because eternal means, with no beginning in time. So we cannot trace back to a beginning. At the same time, in language, we must use something that is time-bound, refers to duality, so creating. For example, even in the Brahma Samhita, in the English version also, it is said Mahavishnu creates the jivas. It's not said he creates the bodies of the jivas, it's said he particularly refers to the jivas. Also when we say Krishna manifests the jivas from his Brahmana effulgence, by manifesting we assume a state of non-existence, and now in a certain point of time they were manifested. Of course, manifesting can mean there was a state before, let's say, subtle, and becomes like with material nature, and then it's become manifest from one state to the other. But the end will remain puzzling, again, because we cannot grasp eternity with the material mind. But we can, for example, perceive ourselves within this world while being in the body. That's something we are hearing over and over again, to distinguish between material nature and spirit. And one aspect of it is to understand, hey, I'm actually timeless. No matter where I stand in terms of how old or young my body is, I can sense my being actually has nothing to do with time if I give it some thought, if I become more aware and a bit more contemplative, you can see that we are not. Sometimes there's this term that's an old soul, which is a term that is actually not befitting at all. The soul is not old. The soul is eternally, because it's also not young. There's no young soul and an old soul in terms of, because this would indicate beginning and creation. But we need to use terms like this to somehow or other get a grip of of what's going on. But yeah, there are statements. I would have to research that, but I think in Bhaktivinoda Thakur's Jaiva Dharma and so on, there are points like of potential when it comes to the relationship that Jiva has with Krishna. But this is a bit I would have to look up. But apparently what is that the relationship with Krishna can be dormant, is that now that we really are asleep, and it's supposed to reawaken. Fascinating topic. Yeah. All right.
Maybe just on Advaita Acharya. So there's Vaishnavas who have Advaita Acharya as the main Acharya, right? Like they're following in the footsteps of Advaita Acharya, whereas we more focus on Rupa Goswami. Do you have any kind of, what is the distinction, or what are the differences or commonalities?
Actually, I don't know much about it. Maybe Krishna Prem Rupa Prabhu knows about that, or someone else. I think I cannot really say something on that. Shri Chaitanya Charitamrita ki jai, Shri Advaita Acharya Appearance Day ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai.
Keshava Madhava Dasa ki jai. Prabhu.